I am Inga Madsen. I am the founder and lead practitioners of the Empowered Parenting Framework, an energy psychology-based approach to transforming family dynamics during adolescence. And we're here today because I am on a mission to help more families because I think it's really hard being a parent in the current climate, and I want to be of help. You know, I've been doing this work for nearly 20 years, so I've kind of seen it all and probably done it all as well, either in my dealings with my own children or when I was a teenager. So what I'm inviting you to do is to submit me questions, either now in the comments or preferably in advance via DM, or find me on my email. And I think up till now, up till very recently, pretty much all of us were kind of brought up with some form of shame or fear or anger used as a parenting tool to get us to behave and conform and do what we were told. And thankfully, most of us are not willing to use those methods anymore, I guess, because we know from ourselves the kind of scars that leaves. So I think it's all about finding a different approach now. The pendulum always swings in parenting, but here we are. We are where we are, and it's about finding a better way. Do share this with your friends if you see the recording and you think it's useful for somebody who are also dealing. And we're going to be looking at anger. The question that's been submitted is around how to deal with explosive anger. So this question is around a 9-year-old. What the parent says to me is that her daughter can be the most lovely, kind, thoughtful girl 1 minute, and then really, really angry and aggressive and hostile the next moment. And it's like sometimes you can't even see that it's about to explode or change. And so the question from mum is how to manage that explosive anger. And there can be, she can be physically violent or, smashing up the furniture. And also not be very kind to her younger sister. So I am sorry. That's what I want to say first. I'm sorry that is happening. That's really hard and it's really difficult to deal with. So let's see if we can explore that. First of all, I'm just going to have a sip of coffee. I've had a very busy morning and I didn't get my 11 o'clock coffee because I had a client. So first, I just want to do a little bit of psychological education around anger in particular. So if you imagine that can you see my fist here? My hand from all angles. So this is that's better if I hold it here. So if this is your brain and your child's brain, we have the frontal cortex here, which is the part of our brain that can think and plan and be reasonable and rational. We have 3 brains. I don't know if you knew that, but we have 3 parts to our brain. So that's the frontal cortex, and that's quite new in evolutionary terms. And in there, hiding there, and going right down the back of your brain is what's called the amygdala. Think of that as the security center, or like the smoke alarm, and it's always there watching and for our survival. It's just really concerned with us surviving. It doesn't really care if we're happy or not. Just wants us to be alive, which is great. What are we now? 9 billion people and counting. So hey, it works. From when we were prey animals in the savannah getting eaten by lions till now, where we're the biggest predator on the planet. So this amygdala, this safety, pen marks, always got leaking pens, works. And what happens with anger is that some people are more sensitive to anger than others. Some people have what's called a smaller window of tolerance of what they can tolerate before they flip the lid on their rational brain and tip into the third part of the brain, which is in here, which is the emotions, and in their case it's anger. For other people it's other emotions, it's fear. But for this little girl, something happens and we don't know what. Mum and Dad often don't even know what it is, but she senses some kind of threat to her autonomy, and it's sensed by the amygdala, and it goes into full fight mode instantly and flips the lid on her ability to think rationally, reason, or hear any reasonable comments from parents, any suggestions to how to behave differently. And she is just blasting out the emotion of anger. Okay, so just understand that that is what's happening physiologically. This is biology, and that's what's happening. Now, why would she have such a small window of tolerance? Okay, can you see that's a window? So emotions, think of them as energy in motion, emotion, and they are always up and down, up and down, up and down. And if they don't fit inside of what we can tolerate, if they flip outside of it or go below it, up here is fight and flight. So she will tip out into fight. And the moment she does that, she flips the lid on her thinking brain and that fight comes out. So what can we do as parents? We kind of have two jobs. One is an expansion project of that window of tolerance. And what's the other job? Oh, the other job is to just keep our own lid down on our emotions, so that we can keep the rational brain. So she's flipped the lid on hers. We desperately need to keep ours down, because if we get angry when she's angry, which a lot of us do, because that's how we were brought up, and we're just repeating those generational things. So if more pen marks. So if we flip the lid on our brain as well, we've got two flip lids, and so we've got thunderstorms, that's the lightning, and it just escalates and ends in tears on both parts, or parents feeling guilty and not sleeping at night. So your first job as a parent is to work out how you can keep your temper. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first when the emotional turbulence is happening over here for your child. You are the adult, it is your job. And there's lots and lots and lots of different ways that you can learn how to do that. And I don't know these parents, I've never met them, it's just an email. So I don't know if they're capable of doing that or if they need help doing that, but that is what you have to do. And then when you are in your rational brain as a parent, then you can meet the child's anger in the way that it needs to be met. And I call this, you have to use your AAA battery. So it's about, obviously, noticing that they've got angry, and it's like the anger is allowed, the behaviour isn't always allowed. If they're smashing up the furniture or beating up their sister, that aggression is not allowed. The feeling of anger is allowed, but aggression is not okay. We tend to end up in prison if we're aggressive. But the first job for the parent who's kept their thinking brain switched on is to bring the anger down. And you do that to regulate, help your child regulate. They don't know how to regulate, and that's your job. To help them, and they will co-regulate when you keep calm. And so some words to use, the AAA battery of accepting, acknowledging, and allowing. So use language, use your words, because because the jargon is name it to tame it, it will engage their thinking brain. When you're using words, they have to they have to kind of get their thinking brain back online a little bit to hear what you're saying. So you say things like, whoa, that made you really angry. I am sorry. I didn't mean to make you angry. Or, wow, you have just got angry. I am really sorry. I don't know what happened, but I can see you're angry. I can see your eyes are bulging. Your fists are clenched. You've gone red in the face. your whole body is tense. I can see how angry you are, and I'm sorry, and I get it, and you're allowed to be angry. So you're accepting it, you're acknowledging it, you're allowing it, and you're using that kind of language. Now, just a little warning, this is a young, a 9-year-old. Sometimes with adolescents, they are long in the tooth and they are sniffer dogs for hypocrisy or parents behaving differently. So just be aware of the kind of language you use. It's got to be your language. You can't just copy my words. It's got to be in your framework. But along those lines of acknowledging, and so because it's all about them regulating, because what happens when we flip the lid, that emotion that comes out for this kid is the adrenaline of fight. So it's it's getting more blood to her muscles, tightening up the fists. That's where we often feel anger to defend ourselves. And probably somewhere in her, it feels unfair. If you're asked to switch to just press pause on your tablet, that can feel really unfair. If you're a young child who doesn't, who is so in their emotions, that haven't learned how to manage their emotional spikes, and it just blows the whole thing up because it's like really unfair. I'm in the middle of a game, blah, 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 whatever they feel in their little brains. And so you have to meet that. I get it, that feels unfair, and I'm really sorry. And, we are just about to have dinner and there's no tablets at the dinner table. And we know, but I'm so sorry that made you angry. And just, you're allowed to feel it. You are allowed to be angry. Should we go and beat some cushions up? Should we do it together? Let me help you. Let's just beat the sofa up. Let's get that anger out. Let's just move it through. Now, a true emotion will only last 90 seconds, and think of it as a wave that will, crest, but then it will also fall down and go back out. But if it's met with opposition, don't you talk to me like that or whatever, if you flip your lid and you meet that anger, then it's just going to stay. Then it's because it hasn't been heard, because their thinking brain, their ability, the maturity isn't able to acknowledge the fact that they've got angry. They are just in the tumble dryer of the fury, and that wave of the fury kind of being pulled out by the surf and smashed back in by the wave. Do you see what I mean? And so stay calm, address the anger, allow it, acknowledge it, accept it, keep talking to it, till you start seeing it calm down and bring it back down. And then you are the expert on your child, whether that's the moment to kind of talk about what happened. Be curious, maybe it's not, maybe it is. But at some point, perhaps revisit that moment when they flipped and just like in a non-judgmental way, can we talk about it? Do you know what happened? Did you notice anything in your body? And if you, and hands up, I'm not an expert on neurodivergency, but I have worked with plenty with it. So just sort of questions around, where did you feel it in your body? Because it's not that people that are neurodivergent, it's not that they don't have feelings or emotions, they definitely do, but their connection to them is quite different to typically what is called neurotypicals. So having a language around how anger feels in the body is useful. So I hope that helps. Let me know when if you're in the same boat as the parent, and I know lots of us are. Let me know what you think and how it goes, and try